Okay, everybody, welcome back to Student iPad Training 2016. So, this year, for those of you who are not new to one-to-one but are returning to one-to-one from last year, we're going to have a few training sessions that are going to be a little bit faster paced to get us back into the swing of things so that your teachers are able to get going using technology in their classrooms to the best of their ability. So, without further ado, let's get started here. First off, why more training? Well, there are a handful of reasons why it's really important for us to do a little bit more training at the beginning of this year, even though you've used your technology before. One of those reasons is to help to get your iPad cleaned up a little bit so that you're ready to go for this year with this year's apps and this year's materials, and so that you can clean them from last year. We will do that, so those of you who are wondering about Notability and what we should do, stay tuned. We'll cover that very soon. Second, because we want to give you a little bit of information about some new things and some new filters and some new monitoring, how that's going to work. There's a big change in the way that Google and YouTube is being filtered this year, and we want everybody to be aware of that up front, and that's through Securely, which many of you are already familiar with. Third, we want to be able to jog your memory on the how-to for certain things, just to help to get everything off a little bit more quickly this year. So we won't spend quite as much time going through trainings, but we still will review some key things just so that you are aware of those important practices that we've done in the past. And we also want to make sure that you are using your technology in the right ways, both in terms of taking care of the technology correctly, using it the right way in terms of the way that you collaborate with others, and then finally using it the right way so that you can grow as well as possible as a student in terms of your thinking, your learning, and your understanding of content and everything else. And the key that we want everybody to understand very clearly up front is that our goal with one-to-one and with every child having an iPad is to help every single one of you to become the best version of you that you are capable of becoming. That is our goal. And in order for that to happen, we need to make sure that we use technology the right way, because when used the wrong way, it could be really the opposite of helping you out. It could actually hurt you. So we want to make sure that we are using this the right way. So let's jump right into some of the details that we're going to go through today. First, we want to remind you of the two agreements that are in place, and the two, I guess you could call them kind of like our rule listings, just so that we're all clear on this up front. First, on the left, we have a screenshot from the student handbook. And the student handbook at Boys 4 Couch and at the high school, all three include this user agreement. These are the specific things that you know you are allowed to do with an iPad and you are not. I'm going to highlight some in this presentation, but it would be really beneficial for you to look through it if you have not recently. Second, on the right, is the Insurance Protection Plan Agreement. Now, in the past, we had about 98% of all students opt into this program. For some reason this year, and this is just an informal look from what I've seen, it seems as if there are a lot of people who are opting out. I strongly advise against that approach. It costs $30 to opt in, and it protects against a lot of different things, including breaks. And we'll talk a little bit about breaks here from the care perspective, but just to put it all into perspective, financially, if an iPad is broken from a screen, or the screen of an iPad is broken, excuse me, it can cost $180 to replace it. Our protection plan would cover that first break, and if a second break were to occur, it would only be a $30 deductible that you would have added on. So if we do the math, $180 of a break versus $30, that's a $150 increase. And if a second one were to occur, instead of you having to pay $360 on your own to replace it twice and to fix it twice, you would only be having had to have paid $60. Significant difference. Now, how do we need to take care of our iPads? Well, there are two different components to this. Number one, we obviously want to make sure that we are not throwing it and doing things like that. Accidents do happen, and if one drops, that's the case, then that's something that the protection plan can cover. But we cannot see, and we will not tolerate children throwing around their device and not treating it appropriately. The same thing holds true for the cases. One of the things that I've noticed on many of the cases, this area right here, and also in the corners, kids have been picking at them. Last year, we had quite a few that were turned in with these ripped off. If these are ripped off, these are not covered by our insurance protection plan, because that is not a natural thing to occur. That is a child pulling it off. And it's important for every student to understand right now that if this is ripped off and it gets turned in at the end of the year, there will be a bill to replace that. So we want that to be very, very clear up front, because we had quite a few at the end of last year that came in this manner. Now, we would not like stickers to be placed on the devices. In the back of the case, there's a space where you can put in pictures or whatever else you would like to personalize it, and we always need to have your name. We will add in something later on that's our little quick fix sheet if you would like to use that, but you're not going to be required to put that in there. The other thing that we wanted to let you know is that there have been a lot of questions about, can I add in a keyboard case? What if I want to have a keyboard? Well, there are two different ways that you could add in a keyboard theoretically. Number one, there are plug-in keyboards that you are allowed to bring in if you would like to use them. And number two, if you would like to switch your case to a keyboard case, that is something that we are permitting currently. So if that is something that you would like to do, that is okay, but we will say this: if you get a less protective case, one that does not protect the corners of the device, it is going to be much more susceptible to damage. And if you're using a different case, that is something that you need to be aware of, because we don't want you to put yourself at risk for needing to pay more for this later on. And again, as I alluded to, the cost of this, it gets pretty expensive if you are not in the insurance protection plan, and this is for a screen. So make sure that you take care of your device. We do not want to put any parents in a bad position here with this later on. Now, let's talk about educational use. When we think about the way that iPads are intended to be used, it is for learning. It is not for off-task types of things. Like if you look at this individual student here, watching the Justin Bieber video, I would say that's probably not what that teacher would like to see happening in their class, and that's definitely not what we would like in our classes. That's something that we've really been doing a lot in the past few months to provide better ways for teachers and even parents to monitor usage. So this is something that we will not tolerate in any way. So please keep that in mind. Obviously, we don't want gaming to occur at all, especially in class. But even outside of class, that's not what these devices are for. So when we think about these two uses, watching random videos on YouTube and gaming, they're not allowed. And obviously they're not allowed when it is time to learn in school. But it's also important, I want everybody to be crystal clear on this point. They are not to be used, your school iPads are not to be used in this way on your free time, whether it be at school or at home. So if you're at 4 Couch and it is period 7, that is not a time for you to be watching random YouTube videos and playing games. Same thing for if you are at home, even if you are done with your work. If you have a personal device, it can be used to do these types of things. Your school device should not ever be used in this fashion. We want that to be clear, and I'll show you how we monitor this here soon, so it's really clear that we can keep up with it. Next. From an educational use perspective, there are a lot of people who get very concerned that technology makes it easier for kids to cheat and to do other things like that on work. And the reality is that cheating has been going on for a long time. And we want it to be clear that when it comes to technology, there are some things that we are aware of that can occur, and we want you to be very clear on the fact that it's not a good decision to do this for many reasons. Number one, let's say in Shobi you decided you're going to try to turn in somebody else's work. Obviously, this is a violation of a lot of different rules, and it has really nothing to do with technology. This is just straight up cheating on homework. But one thing that we want you to really understand is anytime that you submit something to Shobi, it is permanently in that Shobi folder. You cannot delete it, even if you would like to. So maybe the teacher wouldn't notice it the first day, but if they want to look back on your work later on, they can find if you've been cheating. And that's an important thing to understand, that you are turning in a permanent file anytime that you do a lot of different things on technology. If you're emailing, if you're turning into Shobi, if you're working on Google Docs even, all of the work that you do is permanently there. It's stored, and it can be accessed later on. So from a cheating perspective, please do not try to do that. It's a horrible practice for you as an individual. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help you learn. And while you might feel good that you're saving yourself 2 points, if a teacher didn't check it that day, it's not going to help you in any way. It's only going to hurt you in the long run. So please don't do that. And just as a little side note as well, anytime you're doing your personal stuff, all that stuff can be saved too. And I know some of you think, oh no, they can't save Snapchat, or they can't save this or that, or I can delete my picture. Just so you know, anytime that you put anything on a screen, somebody can take a picture with their own phone of it, they can do a screenshot of it, all those things can occur. There's no way in this day and age to truly protect your stuff, so just keep in mind, as soon as you put anything online, it's out there, and that's important for you to understand. A couple specific areas in which iPads are not allowed to be used, and this is at all 3 buildings, at Boys 4 Couch and at the high school. Number one, these devices do not go into a restroom. That's a very important thing. If you're in class, leave your device there, go to the restroom, come back. That's something that we really don't want to deal with. We're not going to tolerate at all. For a locker room, unless it is locked, we do not want it in there. So if you're going down for phys ed, it's not a good idea to leave that sitting in the locker room where it's not being monitored at that time. If you're in the locker room for a sport, that's a little bit different, but just make sure that you have a lock on it at all times. And for those of you who have locks that can be taken on and off of your locker, make sure that you actually use the lock. It's a very, very bad idea to take the lock off because you could have things stolen. Some specific restrictions to mention. Number one, you are not here to be a professional photographer with your iPad during class. You are not permitted in any way to take pictures or videos of other students without their express consent. In other words, they have to tell you that it's okay. The same thing holds true for teachers. You are not allowed to take a video, you are not allowed to take pictures of them without their consent. There's zero tolerance on this. I want that to be very clear. At every building, the same thing will happen. It will be a referral to the office if you are taking pictures of somebody else. And there are significant consequences for this. So please do not put yourself in this position. This video, even time-lapse or anything like that, please do not go and do that. Also, I'm sure that some of you have seen before that if you type in the wrong passcode lock, you can actually lock people out of iPads. Each year we have a few kids who try to do this to somebody else. This too is an immediate referral to the office if you do this. So please do not go and start trying to type in the passcode of somebody else. You are really not in any way supposed to be touching other people's devices unless there's some specific thing that they have given you permission to. So we want that to be clear that we have to respect the privacy of other people. Just because you can with an iPad, like you can take a picture of somebody else, you can touch it because you see it sitting there, doesn't mean you should, right? Just because you can pick up an item in a store and walk out with it doesn't mean you should. It doesn't make it legal, it doesn't make it okay. So make sure to use these the right way. On to a couple other quick things. Reminder, downloading apps, we have the self-service app that is available. So as you can see here, this is going to be the icon. If you do not have this on your device, make sure you let us know so that we can help you with that. And then down here, these are going to be where the apps show up once you actually open up the library. We can help with that if it's not working for you right away. And by the way, you're probably going to want to be downloading apps here in the next few days to make sure that you are ready to go with all the essentials. So we'll cover that here separately as well. Now let's talk about the 3 fixes. A reminder in case you do not remember these. If you need help, something's not working right, what are the 3 things you do? Number 1, you double tap the home button that's on the front and then you swipe up. That force quits the app. That is the first thing that tends to work very well. I would strongly suggest doing that. Again, double tap the home button, which is on the front of your iPad, and then swipe up on the app that you would like to close out. It's just like quitting an app and then you can reopen it. That tends to fix most problems. The other thing that tends to fix a lot of problems is when you turn off the Wi-Fi. So this button right here is your Wi-Fi. If you turn that off and then turn it back on after a couple seconds, that helps you to reconnect the internet. Sometimes that resolves the issues that you have. If you would like to do that, you can. Airplane mode also works. Airplane mode shuts off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and everything else. If you turn airplane mode on for a few seconds and then turn it back off, that will help you to reconnect your internet and should help you out. Finally, if your iPad is not working and you need to shut it down, if you hold in up here, we have this button, oops, I'll go back on that one, this button up here, if you hold in this button for a few seconds, and by the way, it's hard with these cases because of the way that they are, so you might need to push in a little bit harder than you might think. But if you hold that button in for a few seconds, you'll see a menu that comes up right here that says swipe to power off. If you shut down your iPad and then you turn it back on, which would be done by then again holding this button up at the top after a few seconds of it being shut off, that's a good way to reset everything. And if you're really stuck and your iPad is actually frozen, which does not happen very often, but it could, if you hold in both the home button and the power button for about 10 seconds, in the middle of the screen you'll have this wonderful apple show up. I would try to draw it, but it'll just be terrible. But anyway, so you'd have a little apple that shows up there, and that tells you that you've force shut down your iPad, or they called it a hard reset. And then you from there can turn it back on, and it should work a little bit better for you. Now let's say that those things don't work. It's important for you to understand that we don't want you going and trying to fix things. We don't want you trying to do too much in terms of damages that might occur to it. So we have various help desks at the different buildings. At Boyce it is in room 18. At Fort Couch we have the smart desk that is located, and let's see, yep, I lost my map, in room 140. For those of you who don't know where 140 is, if you were on the floor where the 7th grade teams are, it is very near to the computer lab that is by Team 2. And I might add in a picture here in a second after I stop this recording to show you there, because I do have one ready. And then finally, the high school, the Smart Desk, which is a new location for it this year, is located in the library right next to the doors to the Resource Center. This is where you would enter the Resource Center. There will be members of the Smart Desk on duty during most periods at the actual desk. Otherwise, you can also get help in different ways. Now, let's say that none of those things are working, or you're at home and you're panicking and something's not working right. What can you do? On your iPad, you have an app that looks like this. It says FC Tech Support, or it will be a little bit different, high school or HS or BO. Regardless, that is basically a direct link to our help desk from our district technology team. So if you click on that, it automatically opens up an email that is addressed to the correct person. You can then send an email in saying this is not working or that is not working, and then we can help you from there potentially. So there are lots of different ways for you to get help. We gave a sheet like this last year, and it was helping you with regards to how you can do certain things. We will provide a new one for you here soon, so stay tuned for that as well. If you would like to set up some things, one thing you can actually set up now is your Touch ID and passcode. In the past, we wanted your passcode to be something specific. This year, we're going to let you choose what you would like it to be, if you would like it to be longer, short, whatever you would like. But we just want you to be aware up front. Teachers can have these passcodes removed. And that's something really important for you to understand. So if you're just trying to lock people out or something like that, that's not a good idea. But on the other hand, also, if you forget your passcode for some reason, they can help. One thing that we ran into last year, and it wasn't a large number of cases, maybe 5 or 6 throughout the year, we had people with a lot of wrong attempts. And if you've ever seen it, what happens then is it says you are locked out of your iPad for 1 minute or for 5 minutes. And we had some kids who continued to put in the wrong passcode. They just kept guessing over and over and over again. And what ended up happening was they actually had to reset their entire device. They lost everything on there because, again, they kept putting it in, and eventually Apple says, okay, somebody's trying to break into this device. We can't let them get in, so we're going to have to make it so it's going to erase. So, please keep an eye on that. As soon as the lock screen comes up and you're no longer can use your device, please don't keep putting in a wrong password and guessing. Please let us know. We can remove the passcode lock, let you put on a new one. And as we mentioned, intentionally inputting the wrong code on somebody else's device is going to be an immediate referral to the office. So we don't want any funny business with that, so please don't goof around with that. Touch ID is something else you can put in. If you go into the Settings app, we have the ability to add in touch code ID if you would like, so that you can have a thumbprint unlock. Something that's nice. I would say the passcode is sufficient, but it is your decision on that. Something else as well, if you have a lost iPad, we can use Find My iPad. This is the Find My iPad app, but we need to know right away, and this is something that we want to be a major point of emphasis. Last year we had a few iPads that went missing. We ended up finding most of them pretty quickly, so it wasn't a huge ordeal. However, one of the big things that makes this difficult is if you don't tell us right away. If you tell us right away, we can help you to be able to find it by locating it and doing some other things. If you do not tell us right away, we kind of get stuck, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to help you out. So you must tell somebody right away. Go to your help desk, tell a teacher, whatever, if you can't find it, and then that way we can resolve this very quickly. And on to the last couple things here. For this year, we have a new filter and monitoring system that is going into place. With this, here's what you will see. Sometimes this will show up. It says this video is restricted. It must be approved for you to view it. That's because YouTube is now in a restricted mode, which means that you cannot access everything anymore. Now, sometimes you will see this come up in blended schools, let's say from a teacher. If that happens, click on the link above, and when you do that, it will actually open up in YouTube, and it might work. But a lot of the time, it's actually still going to be restricted. Along with the YouTube changes, we also have changes to Google in the way that you can search. Number 1, we have Safe Search that is always going to be on. Number 2, in Google Images, it is going to only allow you to search items that are not going to be plagiarized, basically, so it's called a Creative Commons license. And number 3, if you try to search a term that is inappropriate, like this is baseball, let's say we search something bad, it will just give you a block page. And not only will it give you a block page, but it is also going to let us know that you searched that term. So the way that this works is that we can see a lot of things very cleanly and easily. For instance, this is telling us all the different searches that have occurred. I blocked out the names just so that those people wouldn't be on here, but this is the one I actually just took last night. And it also will show us, if we look at this really closely, this thumbs down in red, this means it was blocked. It tells us who's the person and what did they search for that was inappropriate. So I don't think you want to have that as something that is connected to you with this, especially given that not only will administrators be able to see this as we're kind of looking through and keeping up and making sure that the iPads are used appropriately, but also your parents will be soon. Because one of the things that is being released here that your parents will be able to be involved with is right now there's a weekly report email that can get sent out to your parents, and it will show them what videos you've watched from your device, what searched words, what educational sites you've been to, and what other sites you've been to, and parents can click around and look. And in the future, they're going to be able to click and look at this at any point in time so that they can see what you've been doing. So we just want you to be clear, this is a monitored device, and it is an educational device. That is really important to know. Now, in terms of this this blocking, there are times when I've seen words in here, and I realize that people are searching this from an academic perspective. So if you are searching for academic purposes, you're not going to be in trouble. Don't get all panicked thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't search anything. If you're doing it for something that's for school, it's fine. Sometimes things come up, and just because of the wording and maybe it has different meanings, it may end up being blocked. Don't get too worried that you're going to automatically be in trouble. We use judgment with this, but we want you to know that it is being monitored, and that's important to know. And then the other thing is that your teachers soon, within about a month, are going to be able to see at all times while you're in class what you're using, because it will show them you with your with what app is on, and then the teacher will actually be able to click on an individual student, and then your iPad screen will show up on theirs. So just so if you're thinking, oh, I can get away with it, whatever else, it's going to be pretty hard now, and I would suggest not doing that, just using the iPad the right way. And I know this is getting long, so I apologize for that, but our last little note for today is about paper or electronic, because we want to establish a clear understanding of this from the very beginning. There are times where there are assignments that, let's say assignment A, it could be done on paper just the same as it could electronically. When that is the case in your classes, you will have an option to use either paper or the technology for it. Okay? It's an important thing to understand. There are some cases, however, where it might be best to use paper, and your teachers are going to say, no, you need to use paper for this assignment. That is appropriate, and that is expected. Okay? That will happen. However, on the other side of things, there also will be times where technology is required for whatever reason. Maybe a camera is required. Maybe there's some sort of an activity that is collaborative and we need to share, right? And the reality is, for some of these, paper isn't equal. And because of that, we need to make sure that we use the technology that we have. This might be a Socrative quiz at the beginning of class. It might be a collaborative Google Slides presentation, or it might be turning in work to Shobi, right? Those are things that you can't replace on paper. Now, maybe you could do the assignment on paper, take a picture of it and turn it into Shobi, and that would be fine. But the reality is, we want it to be very clear up front that when possible, there will be the choice between paper and electronic. But that's not always going to be possible. So use your best judgment as a child, as a student, and as somebody who's interested in your best interest. Use your choice to do what is best for you. That is your job. That is your responsibility. If you have any questions or concerns about this, please talk to your teachers. Talk to one of us, and we can help you out here with this overall. So as we wrap up today, there will be some more trainings here, and again, the idea is to help to get you set up. We're going to be switching over to a different app with our email, because we want to help you to filter things through a little bit more effectively. We'll be helping you to set up your calendar so that if you want to record the tasks that you have electronically, we want to be able to help you with that. We will help you in a future one to clean up your Notability so that you can back up your work from last year, and also have it cleaned up so that you can you only see your work from this year. And then we'll also be helping in sending out some reminders about some quick things related to how to use Shobi and set it up, and some higher level things within that. And then also making sure that Safari is set up appropriately, and that you understand how that will work, especially with getting your blended schools set up as well. So that is that. Hopefully this wasn't too long and you have a nice little intro to this. But what I would suggest for you is this. Over the weekend, or really tonight or whenever you're getting your iPad, make sure you take it home, make sure you get it charged, and you find a place that you can get it charged at all times. And then review through this and make sure you know all of these different things that we covered. Make sure you understand the expectations for taking care of your iPad, what educational use is, plagiarism and how you can be caught, where you can't use your iPad, and all these other things. And teachers, this might be a good thing to go over with your students kind of briefly to remind them, do you understand all of these things? Because these are key things for us that we need to know and we need to be able to do moving forward so that you can get the most out of your technology and make it so that it is used in a productive way and not in a way that's actually going to take away from what you're trying to accomplish. Thank you for your attention with this, and please let us know if you have any questions about this.